Welcome back, everybody, for another deep dive with us.
Glad to be here.
So today we're going to be tackling a
Yeah.
really interesting topic, I think. It's the mental health landscape for LGBTQ plus folks, and
Absolutely.
we're diving deep into this report that we found.
Oh, yeah.
It's packed with a lot of really interesting information.
For sure.
One of the things that kind of just jumped out at me right away was this statistic that LGBTQ plus individuals seek out mental health services
Oh, wow.
at a rate 2.5 times greater than their heterosexual counterparts.
2.5 times. That's significant.
Yeah, it really is. So
Yeah.
it makes you think like, wow, like what's going on there?
You know, it's that paradox, right? I mean, we hear so much about the resilience of the LGBTQ plus community.
Yeah.
And they are incredibly resilient. But when you see service usage rates like that,
Right.
it really does kind of underscore all the different challenges that they're facing.
Yeah, absolutely.
So this report really digs into that.
Okay.
And one of the things that it starts off by doing is like defining some key terms.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, sexual orientation is who you're attracted to.
Right.
Gender identity is your own internal sense of being male, female.
Mm-hmm.
Both or neither. But it's important to remember being LGBTQ plus is not a mental illness in itself.
Right. Yeah, it's really important to make that distinction.
Absolutely.
So I guess that begs the question then, if it's not about being LGBTQ plus inherently,
Right.
what are some of the things that contribute to those
Yeah.
higher rates of mental health?
Yeah, the report dives into all the different pressures that different groups within the community face.
Oh, okay.
So, for instance, bisexual individuals, right, they often encounter biphobia from both heterosexual and homosexual communities.
Oh, wow.
They can feel very unseen and unheard and very isolated.
Yeah.
And that can lead to
Yeah.
a real impact on mental well-being.
Absolutely. I mean, that's not something I would have necessarily thought about
Yeah.
before, that both communities might,
Right. It's interesting.
hold some biases, I guess.
Yeah, and the report also talks about how transgender individuals face even greater challenges.
Okay.
And, you know, for a lot of transgender people, the process of transitioning, whether that's socially, medically, or both,
Right.
can be incredibly challenging.
Yeah.
They often face discrimination,
Of course.
lack of family support, and a lot of difficulty accessing appropriate health care.
Wow.
And this can lead to significant stress,
Right.
anxiety, and depression.
I mean, it's heartbreaking to even think about,
Yeah,
that they have these additional hurdles to overcome
absolutely.
just to be who they are.
And the report also, dives into this concept of intersectionality,
Okay.
which I think is really crucial to understanding this whole conversation.
I've heard that term before, but I'm not sure I fully grasp it.
So it's this idea that people's experiences are shaped by multiple
Okay.
overlapping identities.
Okay.
So, for example, a black transgender woman
Mm-hmm.
faces a very different reality, a very different set of challenges
Yeah.
than, say, a white gay man.
Right. So it's not just about being LGBTQ plus, it's all these other
Exactly.
layers on top of that.
Yeah, all these different facets of identity coming
Yeah.
together, and sometimes they can really amplify the challenges.
Right. So like if you're facing racism on top of homophobia, on top of
That's it.
transphobia, I mean,
It's a compound effect that can be so difficult to navigate.
right, like layers of vulnerability in a way.
Absolutely.
And it sounds like this report really tries to take that into account.
It does, and that's where it gets, I think, really insightful.
Okay.
It doesn't just look at the surface. It really digs deep into the systemic issues at play.
Okay, so like what are we talking about there?
Well, for example, it highlights the pervasive nature of societal stigma and discrimination,
Mm-hmm.
and that exists even in places that are supposedly, progressive.
Right, right. So even in places where you might think, oh, it's fine, it might not be.
Yeah, so I'm curious, what are you thinking about when you hear discrimination? Like what?
I guess I'm thinking like, are we talking about, physical violence or is it?
I mean, it runs the gamut.
Okay.
It could be something as small as like an insensitive joke or an assumption about someone's partner,
Okay.
all the way up to, outright hate crimes and violence.
Right.
The report cites some pretty chilling statistics about the verbal and physical harassment
Wow.
that LGBTQ plus individuals experience.
That's scary.
It is. It's really concerning, and it's something that I think we need to talk more about.
So how does that kind of constant threat of discrimination and violence affect mental health?
I mean, imagine constantly feeling like you have to be on guard, worried about being targeted or rejected just for being who you are.
Yeah.
It creates this chronic state of stress and anxiety.
Yeah, like an invisible weight that never goes away.
Exactly. And that chronic stress can manifest in so many ways.
Yeah.
Anxiety disorders, depression, PTSD, even substance abuse.
Right. People trying to cope however they can.
Exactly. And the report really draws this direct line between that societal stigma
Right.
and the really high rates of these mental health challenges within the LGBTQ plus community.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
It's really heavy to think about all that stuff.
It is.
So societal stigma clearly plays a huge role, but what about the actual like economic and healthcare disparities that LGBTQ plus folks experience?
Yeah.
The report had some pretty alarming statistics in that area as well.
Yeah, that's another critical piece of the puzzle.
Okay.
Because it's not just about mental well-being.
Yeah.
Right. Discrimination has real tangible consequences in the world.
Yeah, for sure.
So LGBTQ plus individuals are much more likely to experience things like homelessness,
Wow.
face barriers in employment, and really struggle to access affordable quality health care.
So it's almost like this domino effect, right? Like societal stigma leads to these inequalities,
Exactly.
which then just make the mental health challenges even worse.
Absolutely. It's a vicious cycle.
Right.
You know, imagine being denied a job or a promotion simply because of who you are or who you love.
Yeah.
That kind of experience could be so damaging.
Yeah.
It can lead to, feelings of worthlessness,
Yeah.
hopelessness,
Yeah.
and just incredible financial instability.
Right. And that all just feeds back into the mental
Absolutely.
health challenges.
And then on top of that, you have the issue of healthcare access.
Right.
And, a lot of LGBTQ plus individuals, they face discrimination even within the healthcare system itself, which just leads to this like fear and mistrust.
Yeah.
And that can prevent them from seeking out the care they need.
Right. So they need help, but they're afraid to even ask for it.
Exactly. And it just creates this like horrible cycle.
Yeah.
The report mentions the Joint Commission is trying to address this.
Oh, okay. Yeah, they mentioned something about that.
Yeah. So the Joint Commission accredits hospitals in the U.S.
Right.
And they've actually taken a really significant step
Okay.
by requiring hospitals to prohibit discrimination based on sexual orientation and gender identity.
Oh, that's huge.
It is. It's a big deal.
Yeah.
So basically, hospitals could lose their accreditation
Oh, wow.
if they're found to be discriminating against LGBTQ plus patients.
So that's a step in the right direction for sure.
It is, but there's still a lot of work to be done.
Right.
Policies are really important,
Mm-hmm.
but they don't always translate to lived experience.
Right. It's one thing to have it written down, but it's another thing to actually see it happen.
Exactly. So we really need to make sure that these policies are being effectively implemented and enforced.
Right. And I guess even beyond just the policies themselves, it's also about like the culture.
Yes.
Right? Like creating a culture that's actually inclusive.
100%. We need widespread cultural shifts
Okay.
to create healthcare environments where LGBTQ plus individuals feel safe and respected and affirmed.
Yeah. So what would those cultural shifts look like? Like how do we actually make that happen?
Well, it starts with education.
Okay.
We need to provide healthcare providers with the training they need to understand the unique needs and experiences of LGBTQ plus patients.
Okay. So giving them the tools to
Exactly.
to really understand.
And also helping them address their own implicit biases.
Right. Because everyone has biases, whether they realize it or not.
Yeah. And then it's about creating those welcoming spaces where patients feel comfortable being themselves.
Yeah. And I imagine that also requires like a broader societal shift, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Like it can't just be the healthcare system.
It can't happen in a vacuum.
Right.
We need to move beyond just tolerance as a society.
Right.
We need to get to a place of genuine acceptance and celebration of diversity.
Like really embracing it.
Exactly. And that's a long game.
Yeah.
It's something that requires ongoing effort from individuals, communities, institutions, everybody.
So we talked earlier about the idea of resilience.
Yeah.
And it's kind of amazing to think about how LGBTQ plus folks show resilience in the face of all this adversity that we've been talking about.
It really is. It's quite remarkable.
So how do they do it? Like, what does that resilience look like in practice?
Well, I think a big part of it is finding strength in their communities, in their identities, and in their unwavering pursuit of self-acceptance.
That's beautiful.
It is, and you see it everywhere you look.
Yeah.
You see it in the countless LGBTQ plus individuals who are thriving, achieving their goals, living authentically despite the challenges.
Yeah.
You see it in the activists and advocates
Right.
who are fighting tirelessly for equality and justice.
Yeah, they're not giving up.
Not at all. And then you see it in the vibrant LGBTQ plus communities that provide so much support and connection and a real sense of belonging.
So it's not about ignoring a struggles. It's about finding ways to cope and connect.
It's about perseverance.
Yeah.
And it's fueled by this deep sense of community and shared experiences.
Like they've been through it.
Yeah. And they're there to support each other.
Wow. It's inspiring to see how they turn their pain into power.
It really is.
And use their voices to advocate for change.
Yeah, but they shouldn't have to carry this burden alone.
Right, exactly. And that's where I think allies come in, right?
Absolutely.
So what role can allies play in supporting the mental well-being?
Allies are so important. They can create a more supportive and inclusive environment.
Okay.
They can educate themselves about LGBTQ plus issues, challenge discriminatory language and behavior, and use their platforms to amplify LGBTQ plus voices.
So it's about really standing up?
Yes, being an active advocate and being a visible supporter.
And it's also about, like, just being there.
Right? It's about the little things, too.
Yeah.
You know, offering a listening ear, providing emotional support.
Yeah.
And just being there for LGBTQ plus friends, family members, colleagues.
Those everyday acts of kindness, they go a long way.
They really do. Sometimes the most powerful form of allyship is just validating someone's experiences.
Yeah.
Letting them know that they're seen, they're heard, and they're loved for who they are.
Exactly. It sounds like being a good ally can involve a lot of things.
Yeah, it can.
Big and small. So for someone listening who's like, man, I really want to be a better ally.
Yeah.
Where do they even start?
I think the best place to start is by educating yourself.
Okay.
There are so many incredible resources available. Books, articles, documentaries, anything you can get your hands on that will help you understand LGBTQ plus history, terminology, and just the issues that they face on a daily basis.
So it's really about, like, taking that time to learn,
to
really listen to those experiences.
Absolutely. And don't be afraid to ask questions.
Okay.
You know, if you're unsure about something. I think most people are happy to share their knowledge and their lived experiences.
Right.
As long as it comes from a place of genuine curiosity.
Yeah.
A real desire to learn and understand.
And not expecting, you know, LGBTQ plus folks to constantly be educating us.
Exactly.
Right? Like, it's on us to
it's our responsibility.
take that initiative.
100%. And as you're learning, you know, to start paying attention to the language you use.
Okay.
The assumptions you make.
Right.
Challenge those ingrained biases and stereotypes.
Yeah, even within your own thoughts.
Especially within your own thoughts.
Right.
That's where it starts.
Like doing that internal audit, catching yourself when you're maybe unconsciously perpetuating harmful ideas.
Yeah. And then take it a step further. You know, you hear somebody making an offensive joke or using discriminatory language, speak up.
Okay.
Silence often signals complicity.
Right.
And your voice can really make a difference.
Yeah. That can be daunting sometimes, though, right? To, like,
it can be.
Speak of in those moments.
Yeah. But it's so important.
Yeah.
Even those small acts of courage can have a ripple effect.
Yeah, I love that. And I think even, you know, donating to organizations, supporting organizations that are really on the ground doing the work.
Absolutely. If you have the means to support financially, that's incredible.
Or even volunteering your time.
Yeah, anything you could do to really help make a tangible impact.
Right. So it's about moving beyond just words.
Exactly.
And taking action to actually support
100%.
LGBTQ plus well-being.
And I think it's important to remember that supporting the mental health of LGBTQ plus individuals, it doesn't just benefit them, it benefits all of us.
Yeah, I love that.
You know, creating a society where everyone feels safe and valued.
Yeah.
That leads to a more vibrant, compassionate, and just world for everyone.
100%. Well, this has been a really eye-opening deep dive.
It has been.
We've covered a lot of ground.
We have.
The resilience paradox, intersectionality, the impact of stigma and discrimination.
Yeah.
The role of allies.
It's a lot.
It is, but I feel like I have a much better understanding now.
That's great to hear.
Of, you know, the challenges and also the opportunities to make a difference.
Yeah, and that's what it's all about, right?
Yeah.
Sparking those conversations, encouraging deeper understanding, and ultimately inspiring action.
And I hope that's what this conversation has done for all of you listening out there.
Me too.
You know, take what you've learned today, share it with others.
Yeah, spread the word.
And really consider how you can make a difference.
In your own sphere of influence.
Yeah, exactly. In your own communities.
Every little bit counts.
Absolutely. Well, thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
It's been a pleasure.
And until next time, keep learning, keep questioning, and keep working towards a more just and equitable world for all.
Absolutely.